What if I told you that no two people on this planet share the exact same cultural identity? That sounds impossible, doesn't it? But it's true. And that realization started for me in the most unexpected way. I moved to Australia in 2014 as a skilled migrant and joined a fascinating team of people working in the area of education and intercultural understanding. It was the first time I was working in a non-tech environment. In all my previous career in tech departments, as soon as the moment you enter a room, people are talking about numbers, charts, graphs. Everything is data-driven. Everything is measurable. But here, something felt different. As I was listening to people around me, I was hearing that people are talking about belonging, inclusion, intercultural understanding, equal opportunity, equity, and philanthropic actions. And these words resonate with everyone. But for me, something was missing. I was waiting to hear about numbers. I was waiting to hear about data. And after weeks of listening, I found out that there weren't any. So one day, I walked into the CEO's office and asked him straight up, so if you say that culture is important, diversity is not only good for business, but it's a good thing to do, tell me, if we are more or less diverse compared to last year, if we are more or less diverse compared to the organization next door, how do we measure diversity? He looked at me through his glasses and there was a moment of silence between us. I was not sure if I asked something completely inappropriate. Then he finally replied, that's a very good question, but I don't know. Let's find out together. What's supposed to be a side 3 months research project turned out to be a 10 years project with dozens of anthropologists, organizational psychologists, data scientists, developers, subject matter experts, designers, and even cloud engineers to build a methodology and system like never before. And after analyzing the detailed cultural identity of nearly 1 million people, they found out that no two people, even twins, had the exact same cultural identity. So from the moment you enter the room and there are two people, there's a level of diversity already happening. Our diversity is unique. Like trees, no two trees in the world looking exactly the same. Even no two zebras have the same stripe patterns. Diversity is already happening, which needs to be revealed and celebrated. But what is culture? If I were to ask you for examples of cultures, you might say art, food, music, movies, garments. And yes, these are all cultural. But hardly anyone would say computers, mobile phones, artificial intelligence. But why? These are cultural artifacts as well. Why do we put technology in a separate bucket? Today, I invite you how we might deepen and sharpen our understanding of culture through the lens of technology. Our life is entangled with technology. From the moment we wake and reach for our phone, we're in commute, watching Netflix, at work, until the time we go to bed. Our technology is also entangled with culture too, but what is culture? UNESCO defines it as a set of distinctive behavioral, emotional, spiritual, and intellectual features of a society or group. There are tens of other definitions by scientific literature, but hardly any of them provide a clear and robust definition of the term in our modern and extremely connected societies. Now, if we want to analyze anything, we need to have models, metrics. Cultural diversity can be defined by these three metrics: variety, disparity, and balance. Variety simply means difference. I'm Persian, you're Italian. One follows Mahayana Buddhism, the other Theravada, or Zen. Disparity means the distance between the ethno-linguistic elements. I'll give you an example. If in one team we have people speaking Portuguese, Italian, and Spanish, and in the second team people speaking Japanese, Swahili, and Spanish, you might say that the second team has a greater linguistic diversity because the distance between Japanese language and Swahili is greater than the distance between Italian and Portuguese and Spanish. The last in the list is balance. So if we put all men in an IT department and all women in marketing department, we already have variety. There's a good level of disparity happening there, but it's not balanced. So if your eyes glaze over when you hear about numbers or raw data or raw information, that's natural because raw information is boring. Usually even information is not as exciting as misinformation. But the beauty about social science and humanity is we can convert, we can transform data into information, information into knowledge, knowledge into actionable insights, and insights into wisdom. For most of history, culture has been treated like abstract, like art, intangible and impossible to measure. My work in the past decade has focused on defining metrics, defining models, to be able to find patterns in our cultural identity and even to be able to predict some aspects of that. This is what we found. So, culture can be disaggregated into 4 pillars. Your ethnic or ancestral background, the language or languages you speak, your country of birth, and your religions or worldviews. And each of them might have subcategories. So, for example, you marry to another culture, you live in another country and feeling aligned with that country. You learn a new language. And there is a broader demographic diversity, such as your sex at birth, your age, your gender identity, the disabilities, long-term conditions including neurodivergence, sexual orientation, and so on. Now, by placing people into broad categories, we oversimplify the nuanced data. We risk not being able to find patterns. We say that broad categories such as black, white, Asian. But what does it mean? If you are from Vietnam, you might be from Hinh, the majority, or the Khmer, the minority. Only in Vietnam there are 57 different ethnic groups. In Myanmar, there are over 330 ethnic groups. What we call Asian includes over 1,500 ethnic groups. And there are thousands of languages and dialects there, then followed by all the countries, all the religions, branches, denominations, and all those categories. Take language as an example. Like everyone in this room speaks English. But there are over 145 variations of English. If you ask a Singaporean what language you speak, they might not simply say English. They might say, we speak Singlish, which is the Singaporean versions of the English. And that's how defining a high-resolution data look like. Now, think about the time you enter a new workplace or shape a group of friends or colleagues at workplace or university. It's usually one of these identities that is in the core of how that group has been shaped. Either your gender, your education level, disabilities, country of birth, or religion. So we have priorities in our identities. So when we gave people a list of 20 options to choose and rank from for their identity priorities, this is what we found. Women consider their gender their third highest important identity. For men, it's 18. So it seems like it's more important for women to be a woman than for men to be a man. White Americans consider their country of birth. African Americans, it's their ancestral. Heterosexual or straight people, Their sexuality is number 19, for non-hetero, second. People with disability usually consider their disability their highest identity priority, even more important than religion or the country of birth. So it seems like what marginalizes us tends to become our identity priority. Yeah. Now, let me step back into the world of medicine. About a century ago, most healthcare practices relied on observation, guessing, and luck. If a treatment worked, great. If not, they tried another way. Then technology changed everything. With better microscopes and imaging systems, doctors could see diseases like never before and come up with targeted treatments. Fast forward to today, AI is diagnosing some diseases like breast cancer better than specialists. So AI and technology is saving lives, not by replacing doctors, but by giving them a better data and tool and insight to work with. The same level of scientific methodology has not been applied into the area of culture. Culture and diversity has been analytically neglected, a blurry space, and it needs of a robust understanding. Our culture, our identities shape our life, shape our workplaces, even shape our conflicts. According to UNESCO, 75% of world conflicts, they have a root in culture, which means differences in ethnicities, religions, borders, values, or identities. The World Peace Index states that only in 1 year, 2023, the world spent $19.1 trillion on violent conflicts around the world. Now, a simple math tells us in 1 year, the world spent $14.3 trillion on conflicts that had a root in culture. Let's reflect on that number, $14.3 thousand billion. So, if ignoring culture has such big, important consequence on us, why we are not adopting and using our methodologies to have a better understanding of each other? We gain much more by knowing each other rather than not knowing each other. Detailed cultural information helps us to have a better understanding of ourselves and each other, how we connect, what everyone needs and what everyone brings to the table. And this understanding helps us to address all these misunderstandings, to bridge the gap. Measuring diversity is not knowing who we are. It helps us to build a better system based on what we need, to build a better future for all of us that serves us better. Now, all these cultural identities that we discussed and talked, they shape our life. They shape our lived experience. And with that, the way we think. At the end of the day, it's diversity of thought that's the most interesting thing. But how does technology, specifically AI, capture our diversity of thought? Think about this. When you Google something, you ask a question, it gives you hundreds of answers. You scroll, you read, you scan, you skim, you choose one, that becomes your choice. But when you put a prompt into AI, it already has trained from the whole internet. But it gives you one answer. No matter if you are in Nigeria or Kazakhstan or Japan, one answer through a filtered perspective, one narrative. That might be very efficient, but it comes with a huge risk of losing our diversity of thought. And it's getting worse because AI is not just answering for us, it's deciding whose voices get heard. It looks like the technology is looking for the most common run of words. But the most effective run of words is not necessarily diverse. So AI is only as good as the data we train it on. So while developing technology, if we are not using diverse data sets, a diverse development, a diverse methodology, we risk building a future that is not reflective of us. But there's another way. Another way is when we develop technologies, when developers develop a new technology, ensure that they are using an inclusive and wide data set that's reflective of us. And we can demand diversity of thought when we put a prompt in. Yeah, because AI is not just there to answer for us. AI is there to expand the way we think. That's the power of AI. So culture is not something abstract and static. Culture is dynamic. Culture, our languages, ethnicities, religions, shape our societies, shape our business. At the end of the day, every setting is intercultural, which means they shape all these identities. And if we don't have a good understanding of these identities, we risk building of societies or future based on assumptions, based on something that's not truly reflective of us. But there's another way. We can use technology to have a better understanding of culture. And we can put culture central to development and design of technology. By marrying culture and technology together, we can build a future that's truly inclusive, a system that's justice and reflective of us. At the end of the day, diversity is foundational to the society that we live in. And maybe it's time for all of us to think that how we can make this happen. Thank you.